We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Aleph Amid Beis Meseches Avodah Zara. This is Avodah Zarah Daf 41b. On the previous Amid, the Mishnah said that Tavnis Yad or Tavnis Regel, which are figures of a hand and figures of a foot, those are forbidden. And so the Gemara now asks, Shvarim Ninu, but aren't those just broken pieces of a statue? Why should those be forbidden? The Mishnah even said that broken pieces of a statue are permitted. And the Gemara says, Tirgam Shmuel answers, Ba'omden al Besisan. We're talking over here where they are standing on their base. Since they are on a base, so therefore that shows that they're important, that they are worshipped, and they're treated like Avoda Zara. Rashi explains, Al Besisan, Al Kanon, Makom HaMesukan Lo. Again, it's a place that was designated for it. Kagon Dos Vinu Hasam, it was placed there. Vadai Polchi Lehu. So in such a situation, they certainly worship it. And the Gemara continues, Itmar, it was stated, the following Machlokas Amoroim. Avodas Kochavim Shenishtabra Meila. What if you have an Avodah Zarah that breaks on its own? What's the halacha? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Asura, Rabbi Yochanan says it's prohibited. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amar Muteres, and Reish Lakish says that it is permitted. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Asura, Rabbi Yochanan says it's forbidden to halo batla because it wasn't nullified by the idol worshiper. So since it wasn't nullified, it just broke on its own. He didn't break it, therefore it's prohibited, it's forbidden. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amar Muteres, but Reish Lakish says it's permitted, mistama bitule mevatela, because we can assume that he did nullify it. Meimar Omar, because the idol worshiper says to himself, Ihi nafshalo atzla, if this idol couldn't even save itself, lahu gavra matzla, do you think it's going to save that person? Meaning, do you think it's going to save me? And therefore, it's obvious that he is mevatelit, and again, therefore, according to Reish Lakish, it is permitted. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asks Reish Lakish the following question. This is from a pasuk in Sefer Shmuel. It says, V'rosh Dagon u'shtei kapos yadav krusos v'gomer. It says that the head of Dagon, that was an idol, and its two hands, they were cut off. Uchsiv, and then it's written, Al kein lo yidruchu kohane Dagon. Therefore, the kohane Dagon, the priests of Dagon, they don't tread. And we'll see the full pasuk. The full pasuk over here says, first it says, Vayashkimu v'aboker mimachras. They woke up in the morning the next day. V'hinei Dagon nofel l'fanav artz. So the Dagon was fallen over, again its head and the palms of its hands, they were cut off, el hamiftan, by the threshold. And then the pasuk says, al kein lo yidruchu kohane Dagon v'chol haboim beis Dagon al miftan Dagon ba'ashdod ad hayom hazeh. Essentially they treated the threshold over there by Dagon as a holy place until this day. And so therefore you see, you have a situation over here where it broke on its own, and yet we do not say like Reish Lakish, we don't say that it is permitted. And the Gemara continues, Amar lo, he said to him, this is Reish Lakish's response to Rabbi Yochanan, Misham Raya, you're bringing proof from over there. Hasam over there, Shemanichen es hadagon. They actually abandoned the idol Dagon. V'yovden es hamiftan, and what was going on in that pasuk is they were worshiping the threshold. The Amri, that they said to themselves as follows. The Amri Hachi, they said as follows. Shavke isari ledagon. The spirit of Dagon has left it. V'yaso esav le'al hamiftan, and now that spirit, it's resting on the threshold, and therefore there's no proof at all from that pasuk. And Rashi explains, Hasam lava avodas kochavim shavura kachashivi lo. Over there, it's not that they're considering it a broken idol and they're considering that important. Dinu savar kevan sharo evarim chashuvin shalo ala miftan. Over there, they thought, since they saw the important limbs on the miftan, on the threshold, so shavke isari ledagon gevuras usuras hatzelem azavoso. The might and the authority of the tzelem of the statue has left it, of the idol has left it. V'hol chavi yashva ala miftan, and now it's on the miftan. Now it is on the threshold. Rashi says Isari Sar Shalo. Isari is like its officer. Kimo Isari Danyu. So we find that in Chulin. And so again, that's why over there in that pasuk they were worshiping the Miftan, and it's no proof against Reish Lakish. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei, we have a question from our Mishnah, Hamotzi Shivreit Slamim. It says in our Mishnah that if somebody finds broken statues, Hareilim Mutarin, those are permitted. And so we can infer from the Mishnah, Ha Shivrei Avodas Kochavim. Let's say it would be broken Avodas Kochavim, actual idols that are broken. Apparently Asur, and apparently those would be prohibited, and therefore again that is a question against Reish Lakish, who says that if you have broken avodas kochavim, it's permitted. And the Gemara answers, Lo teima shivrei avodas kochavim asur, and don't say that the inference to make from the Mishnah is that broken avodah zara is prohibited. That's not what the Mishnah means. Ela ema, rather what you should say from the Mishnah is as follows: if it's broken slamim, so then it's permitted. Hat slamim atzman, but if it's actual slamim, actual statues, asur, and those are prohibited. Ustama Rabbi Meir, and the unattributed Mishnah is following Rabbi Meir. Again, we had a machlokas tanoim in the first Mishnah of the parak, machlokas between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim, whether in general statues are prohibited. Do we assume that they're worshipped? Rabbi Meir says they're worshipped once a year, and so again, that's what our Mishnah is saying. Our Mishnah here is following Rabbi Meir and saying statues are prohibited, but broken statues are permitted. But the Gemara continues and asks for Rabbi Yochanan, but now we can ask on Rabbi Yochanan really, because Mid Rabbi Meir nishma lehu l'Rabbanan, because from what Rabbi Meir says, we can understand something according to the Rabbanan. Lav Amar Rabbi Meir tzlamim asurin, shivrei tzlamim mutarin. Isn't Rabbi Meir over here saying that statues are prohibited and broken statues are mutar? So now let's understand according to the Rabbanan, what would they say? L'Rabbanan avodas kol chavim nami, hi asura, ushvareha mutarin. According to the Rabbanan, we can say the same thing by Avoda Zara itself. The Avoda Zara itself is prohibited, and the broken Avoda Zara is mutter, and so that actually would be a proof for Reish Lakish against Rabbi Yochanan. But the Gemara says, Hachi Hashta, what kind of comparison are you making over here? Hazum over there, meaning over there by statues. Amor avodim, amor lo avodim. Number one, you have a suffix, you have a doubt. One can say they were worshipped, one can say they were not worshipped. V'im tim salomar avodim, and even if you're going to say they're worshipped, but amar botzalam, but you can say that maybe they were nullified. So you have essentially what is a sveika, and that's why in a situation of a broken statue, we understand why it would be permitted because of the double doubt. But avodas kochavim vaday avdu. But if you have an idol, you know for sure it was worshipped. Now mi yemar debotla, who says it was nullified when it breaks? Have a suffix vaday. That's a situation of a doubt and a certainty. V'ain suffix motzmi de vaday. A doubt is not able to take away from a certainty, and essentially that is the logic behind what Rabbi Yochanan says. The idea is that you have a situation by Avodah Zarah where you know it was worshipped. We don't really know if it was nullified when it broke by itself, and so therefore again, that's why Rabbi Yochanan says it's prohibited, and you can't bring any proof against Rabbi Yochanan from the Mishnah. And the Gemara continues, Ve'ein safek motzimi de vadai. So now we have this rule over here that a doubt does not take away from a certainty. Is that really true? But the Gemara asks, V'atanya, but we learned in a brisa as follows, Chaver shemeis, if a Chaver dies, and a Chaver is somebody who's generally relied upon when it comes to things like separating meiseres, V'hiniach megorem alei aperos, he leaves over a storehouse full of produce, Afilu hein b'nei yomon, even if they're just one day, they're just there one day, Harein b'chezkas mesukanim, there's a presumption that everything has been prepared properly, that meiser has been separated, that they are not tevel. And so the Gemara says, V'hacha, but over here in this case, Tevadai tefili, it's a situation where certainly it was tevel, and safek asrinu, safek lo asrinu, there's a doubt whether he took off meiser or whether he did not take off meiser. V'kaasi, safek umotzi midei vadai, and the doubt is coming, and it's taking away from the certainty, meaning we're resolving the certainty, even though it's a doubt, we're resolving it and saying that certainly he took off meiser. And the Gemara says you can't ask from there, hasam over there, vadayu vadayu, it's actually a certainty and a certainty. The vadai asrinu, because he certainly took off meiser, kid Rabbi Chanina chozah, like Rabbi Chanina chozah says. The Amar Rabbi Chanina chozah, because Rabbi Chanina chozah said, Chazak al chaver, there's a presumption on a chaver, she'eno motzi, davar she'eno mesukan, mitachas yadu. He never lets anything leave his possession, so to speak. He never leaves anything out that has not been properly prepared. V'ba yisayim, and if you want, I could say safiku safiku. You could answer in the other direction, that really it's a double doubt, because really it's a doubt whether it really was ever tevel at all. Because efshar diavad kid Rabbi Oshia, it's possible to do like Rabbi Oshia. Rabbi Oshia says a person can employ an artifice, which is a way of circumventing the general obligation that makes something tevel and makes it obligated in separating meiser. You can follow Rabbi Oshia. The Amar Rabbi Oshia says, Marim Adam al Tuvosa, a person again can employ an artifice when it comes to his produce. He's able to circumvent, find a loophole in the halacha. Umachnisa b'mot shalah, he can bring it into his courtyard in its chaff. Kedei shetei behemto ochelas, that way his animal can eat. Upetura min ha-meiser, and it actually would be exempt from meiser in such a situation. And Rashi explains, Diavad Luhuk Rabbi Yoshia, he may have acted in accordance with Rabbi Yoshia, Dechnisa b'mot shalah, that again, if he brings it into the courtyard in its chaff, alo ra pnei abayis, it didn't see the face of the house, so again, in that case, it would not be considered tevel. V'avagav de tevel shalo ra pnei abayis mitzar b'achilas keva. Now, even though in a case like this, tevel shalo ra pnei abayis, we do say it's prohibited to eat it in a fixed manner. V'hacha mechazkin alahu b'cheskas mesukanim, but here we're saying that it's considered to be mesukan. V'sharin alahu b'achilas keva, we're saying that everything's been prepared properly, even that it's permitted eating it in a fixed way. But still, ein kan safek motzi midei vadei, that's still not called a doubt, taking away from a certainty. The achilas keva b'doraisa lo ashkachinan, because the idea of achilas keva, of eating it in that permanent manner on a doraisa level, we don't find such a concept. Umidirabonan hu de mitzar, it's only forbidden on a dirabonan level. Vehimnu rabbanan lecheskas chaver letakanta dedu, and again the rabbanan trust him by the chaver in this situation. Avaliya v'chazinan le demarchinu kodem sharopen Pnei Habayis. However, let's say we knew 100% that the pile was completely finished before it saw the Pnei Habayis, and therefore ubo lechlal tevel. If we knew for sure that it was tevel, so according to this answer, lo nafki su midei vadai adam asrinu lekamon. Then it wouldn't leave that certain status until we saw that he took off meiser in front of us. And again, the Gemara said, "Umachniso lechatzeiro b'mot shelo." He brings it into his chatzer in the chaff, and the point is, "V'lo yemarchena b'kri b'goren shebesada." He's not doing the finishing off of the pile by the threshing floor, by the field. The meiruach hu gemar malacha, because the meiruach is really considered the end of the malacha. That really is when, again, you have the end of the malacha in terms of the chiyuv of meiser. V'achnasaso lebayis hu kovaso lemeiser, and then bringing it into the house, that establishes it, it fixes it for meiser, for the obligations of meiser, less or bar achila sarai, in order to say that it's forbidden to eat it in a temporary manner. Like we say in Bava Mitzvah and Hasocher Sapolim. Now, since he brought it in before the work on it was complete, before it was a finished product, it has not been established in terms of that prohibition. And now when he finishes everything off, he finishes the product in the house, that's not going to fix its obligation to Pnei Habayis hu dekaboy, because again it has to be Pnei Habayis in front of the house, v'lo toch Habayis, and not in the house. Like we learn out over there from the pasuk of v'yachlu b'sharecha v'afilu mercho basada. Even let's say he would finish it off in the field, v'chniso derech gagos v'karfifos, and then he would bring it in, but he'd do it through the roof or through the karfef, the enclosed areas. Amrina bebrachas de lo mikvi. We say in brachas again that also doesn't fix the obligation. And Rashi continues, Kadesh behemto ochelas. This is an order that his animal eats. And again, Rashi notes, Lahachi nakat behemto. The reason why we're talking about his animal, the meichel behemto kachashav le'achila sarai, because feeding the animal is considered a temporary eating. V'leka afilu isur d'rabbanan. So you don't even have that isur d'rabbanan that we just mentioned above. But the Gemara continues and asks, Ve'ein safik motzi midei vadei. Is it really true that a doubt doesn't take away from a vadei, from a certainty? V'atanya, but we learned in a brayso, Summer of Yehuda says, Ma'isa b'shivchaso, there was an incident with the maidservant, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Membeis Amud Aleph.